Hi guys, it's Amy, Gables Stitcher. Happy New Year. It's mid-January 2022. So while it's a little bit late for Happy New Year wishes, Happy New Year nevertheless. 2021 is behind us, and I'm never one to wish time away, but I have to say, I am really glad that 2021 is over. 2021 was a very busy and challenging year for our family. Not a ton of stitching time, less time to make videos. When I looked, I only made 5 videos last year. I've never made videos that infrequently. And just not a lot of free time in general. And honestly, when I had the free time, I stitched instead of making videos. So I wanted to put a bookend on 2021 and share with you what I stitched so I can start this year fresh. Let's close that chapter and let's move on. I am not a huge numbers person when it comes to stitching. Some people love to track number of stitches and hours, and I don't. I track what I started, hopefully the date and around the date and what I'm using, and then I write down when I finish it because I like to cross things off a list. And for me, I do that because I like to keep kind of a running number of how many whips I have going. I'm entering, I think, right around my floss tube anniversary. So I want to say I'm entering like my 4th year of making videos. And in that span of time, every single year I say I want to try to whip down. Well, guess what? This year I actually whipped down a little bit. So I'm going to show you what I started and what I finished. I'm going to go through the year from January through December. It's not a whip parade. I did a whip parade last January, and I will link that in the description box below. In all honesty, most of what I worked on this year, you're going to see now. When I picked something up this year, I tended not to put it down until it was done. There are a few exceptions to that. I am going to film an update video probably right after this. So you'll see the things I did work on. If I'm wearing the same outfit and in the same position, you'll know why. But a lot of my whips sat untouched this year. So if you're interested, and I know there's 500 whip parades out there, but if you want 501, it'll be there. This is just going to be my starts and finishes. So let's start. Starting on January 1st of 2021. This is where I start to get confused about dates, right? January 1st, my new year, new start, was a big one. If you've watched me for any length of time, you know I love big whips. I started on January 1st in They Sinned, which is by Exemplar Dames. I started with a group of frugal Yankees who are a local group of stitches that we stitch together on Zoom every couple of weeks. And this is where I got to. I want to say there were 3 or 4 of us that started it. One finished it in September. Kat finished it, and she is amazing and it's gorgeous. And this is where I am. So I will have inserted a picture of what it looks like. This chart is still available. There are some sellers of Exemplar Dames, so you too can stitch it. I did enjoy stitching it. This is 40 count vintage country mocha, which is a printed fabric. And when this is done, it will be, I want to say over 3 feet tall on 40 count. So it's big, about 3 feet tall. I needed a full like half yard, a linear yard. I am stitching it with substituted flosses. I did a conversion of Victorian Mono floss. There's a couple of DMC in here. And I also think I have 2 of the called for. It calls for overdyes. So that's my color palette. I do have to say that I've already changed things out. I am taking notes, and at some point when I finish it, not if, I will probably tell you what my substitutions are. because I am putting some DMCs in as well. This chart is a bit challenging to stitch from. It's an old chart. It is computer generated. However, it is tiny. So as I said, this is, you know, about 3 feet tall when it's stitched on 40 count. The chart's on 3 pages. So it was giving me difficulty to stitch from the chart because the symbols weren't really super clear. What I ended up doing, and I'm telling you this because I might be the last person to figure this out, but just in case I'm not, this might help somebody else out. I took pictures of the chart with my phone. I uploaded them to Google Drive, and that way I could then expand it as big as I need to be able to stitch it. And that's when I ended up making most of the progress. So, little hint, that was started January 1st. Obviously, it was not finished this year. I would like to stitch more of it this year, and I'm actually itching to get back to it. My next start was the Modern Folk Embroidery 2021 stitch along called Fruits of Plenty. And so many people have stitched this. It is gorgeous. When I saw the picture of it, it was not a mystery stitch along. When I saw the picture of it, it took my breath away. So I stitched it with the DMC that the model was stitched with. I didn't change anything, so I put my initials in, and it was a finish. So, hold it back. I finished this on December 10th of this year. I stitched it on 40 count alabaster linen. And alabaster is a stock Zweigart, and it's kind of has a little bit of a cool tone to it, which is nice. So it goes very well with blues. So that's the whole thing. I'm gonna fold it up and bring it in so you can see some of the details. This was a joy to stitch. I do have to say, the top third, I have no desire to do a stitch along this year. This was a good amount of my stitching time last year because I wanted to keep up. I love stitching it, but it was a lot of stitching. So I want to say, estimating, I want to say about a third of my stitching time last year was on this. And I'm showing it. I know it's like in slow motion here, but it's gorgeous and I am so proud of this. So there we go. A little bit anticlimactic because that was my big finish for this year. And I will be framing it myself. I need to measure it for a frame, and I cannot wait to have it hanging on my wall. Start number 3, January 20th of 2021. So this was an inauguration day start. It's a new Constellation by Plum Street Samplers. And I was prepared to UFO this. Like I actually have written down my sheet, UFO. Stitching it with the called for fibers. And I'm stitching it in 36 count vellum by Picture This Plus. And the reason why I picked 36 count is because there is some over 1 on the sampler, and over 1 is really tough to do on 40 count. But this vellum is very loose, and I was not happy with my start. So unhappy that I didn't stitch on it past like January 21st. And I was convinced I was gonna just restart it. And then I looked at it today and I'm like, you know what? It's actually not that bad. 36 count is kind of funny with coverage because sometimes 1 strand's too little and 2 strands is too much. And I think when I look at it, there's a lot of solid stitching on this. I think in the flower, it's fine. I think the letters at the top are not. So I think maybe if I have some dark areas, I might do those over 2 and do the rest over 1. I mean, with one, do those with 2 strands and the rest with 1 strand. I don't know, but now, like I said, I was planning on UFOing it, and after pulling it out today to look on it, I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna UFO it now. So I was gonna have 4 UFOs, let's call it 3.5, because I might stitch on it and then decide, no, I do need to UFO it. So hopefully I can stitch on it soon to make that decision. My next start was February 15th, and that was the Jade Band Sampler by iStitch Designs. And I finished that on October 28th of 2021. So I started and finished 2 stitch-alongs last year. This is why I said I think I'm burnt out from stitch-alongs for a little bit. I used DMC. This is DMC 561. So nice green color. And these are done on banding. So it's 28 count banding, although I think it's actually more like a 27. I think I counted it. And I am going to roll it up for you. It's still on the scroll rods. This was a fun stitch. What she does is she emails you if you sign up for the stitch along on Facebook or email her. She emails you a piece of the chart every week. She is doing the denim band sampler this year, and it looks really pretty. But like I said, I think I need a little break from stitch-alongs. So I decided to opt out. I can always buy it afterwards and stitch it if I would like. That's the end. So it is about 1 meter in length when it's finished. And can I tell you how happy I was that the border met up after 1 meter of over 1 stitching? Whew! Sweated out a little bit there at the end, but it all worked out. Okay. Next finish, I did the 2020 band sampler from iStitch Designs as well, and that was the burgundy band sampler. And that one I did not finish until this year. I did that one on a natural banding, and I did it with DMC 815. So I'm gonna go from bottom up on this one. This I finished, I started January 18th of 2020, and I finished it on April 16th of 2021. So when I said I picked things up and I stitched them until they were done, and I stitched on a few projects and got a lot of work, I mean, this was maybe half done at the start of the year. So I essentially stitched 1.5 band samplers in the modern folk embroidery. So good amount of stitching, just not a ton of projects. So even if I had time to make videos, they probably would have been kind of boring. Next finish was a kit by the Trilogy called Yule. This is all the kit materials. It is 32 count something. It's a Belfast, and it's over dyes, mostly weeks. So I did iron my finishes before I started this video, and this one has a nice crease in the center, but it's fine. It's probably gonna be a pillow. It'll be fine, I'm not worried about it. So he's cute. I started him on December 28th of 2020. Optimistic that I could finish it that year, which I didn't. And I finished it, as I said, April 30th of 2021. My next finish I don't have, and I will insert a picture. It was my only FFO of the year. Yes, I fully finished one item in 2021 and I don't have it because it was a smalls exchange for a get together of the Frugal Yankees. This was a Blackbird Design chart. It was from the book With Needle and Thread, which unfortunately is an out of print book. I stitched it with color and cotton grab bag fabric and color and cotton floss that I just picked that looked pretty. I started it on April 27th and I finished it on April 28th, and I even FFO'd it on the 28th. I think this was called Bluebird Needles and Pins, and I'm not 100% sure because of the fact that the book is actually being borrowed by the person who received the pillow at the exchange. So it said out of print book. If you ever have a chance to get it at a reasonable price, it would be a good purchase because there's some gorgeous charts in there. My next finish, well, start and finish, on June 1st, I started Red Rhapsody by Rosewood Manor. Loved this when I saw it. I think it was an expo release. I'm showing you the chart because I did modify this. I stitched this with Karen, who is on Instagram, and she finished it a lot sooner than I did. But I had a frame that I picked up on clearance at Joann's that was square. And so I cut out this part right here to make it square so it would fit in my frame. I stitched this on the same 36 count vellum that I'm stitching the Plum Street New Constellation on, and I stitched it with a sulky floss, sulky red work. And I am really happy with how it came out. Hold on, let me put it, the book. This is my first Rosewood Manor I've ever stitched. I can tell you it will not be my last. So there we go. Really pretty. Like I said, I have a frame for it. I just need to have my husband cut some foam core so I can stretch and put it on. And I say my husband because I can't cut in a straight line. So it really needs to be somebody but me who cuts the foam core. And when I was talking about this fiber, like a lot of times 36 count pictures plus is really tight. This is a sulky and the coverage is great. And the sulky is about a 1.5 DMC. Like it's not quite 2, but it's more than 1. So, you know, fabric, it's a natural fiber because this is linen, it's natural fiber. It varies. All right, my next one is a start. I started it on, I'm not sure I said, I started Red Rhapsody June 1st and I finished it October 28th, 2021. Next start, my friend Julie and I, Kansas City girl in the Colorado world, we're talking about having a Jane Austen month. So we're saying Jane Austen July would be awesome. So we both had some Jane Austen charts we wanted to start. Well, July was one of those months for us. I started one chart. It's fine. Miss Bingley's Library from Plum Street Samplers. Love, love, love this. Wanted to stitch it from the time I saw it. All it called for. This is another reason I could tell that I was really busy this year because I typically do a lot of conversions using my stash floss. This year I didn't have a lot of starts, but when I started stuff, mostly I just bought the floss because otherwise I wasn't going to be able to stitch it. And this is what I have done. This is stitched on a 46 count Bergen linen. And I have started Miss Bingley's Massive House. Really enjoyed it when I was stitching on it. Fun stitch, and I am looking forward to getting back to it. And this color, I don't know, maybe like an ivory or a cream. I don't know if I wrote down the color, but see if I can I had to practice. The colors look really pretty on it. And maybe, Julie, we should do Jane Austen July again. Because we have more Jane Austen to stitch. So much Jane Austen. So, open to everybody. Feel free to join us for Jane Austen July. Calling it now. One other start in July. My birthday's in July. I did a birthday start July 30th. And as we know, I love big whips. So I started a big whip for my birthday. I started a Veerland sampler from the Sampler Antique and Needlework Quarterly magazine. I had to think about that for a second. I'll insert a picture of it here. And the sampler was over the last 2 issues of the magazine. And you can purchase these as PDFs from Annie's. And also, if you have a DVD drive on your computer or an external drive, I would highly recommend buying the complete, the complete CD set from Sampler and Antique Needlework Quarterly if you are a sampler stitcher, because it is a great, great magazine. So anyways, this is my progress. I am stitching this on Vintage Country Mocha 40 count. It's actually the other half of the fabric from And They Sent. And I am just stitching it with DMC 310, which is black. And this was a really fun stitch. I had a hard time putting it down, but life happened and I put it down. So we'd like to get back to this really soon. So hold on one more time. And it's good sized. I mean, this is cut to size. Does not fit in a fat quarter or 40 count. I like big whips. But it's also why I don't finish a lot of things in a year. That most certainly was not a finish. Next, order here. My next finish is 1692, Salem 1692 by Blackbird Designs. I started this on August 27th of, no, excuse me, I finished it August 27th of 2021, and I started it in 2018. I'm not sure when, probably the fall of 2018. And I love how this came out. I obviously did not frame it in time for Halloween. This is stitched on a 32 count Belfast linen that I coffee and tea dyed myself. And it is stitched in DMC 310. And the exception is the Salem 1692 at the bottom is stitched in, I believe it's DMC 3799. It's like that dark gray. Really happy with how that came out. It was a fun stitch. And just for kicks and giggles, I want to put a picture in of where I was at the beginning of the year, my whip parade, because I did not realize how much of this I stitched this year. But once again, like I said, I just picked stuff up and stitched until it was done. So at my whip parade, I'm pretty sure I said there was no way it was gonna be a finish this year, and it was, so. And I am very bad. I should start top center instead of top left, because as you can see, I'm very bad in judging, actually measuring. But it's fine. It'll fit in the frame and nobody will be the wiser except for you and I, because we saw it before it was framed. My next start was September 1st. It was the Elizabeth Adelie sampler by Hedgerow Stitching. This was a stitch along I did with Betsy Klager for the Stupid Tuma Sal little sweet sampler. I stitched it on 36 count Boston by Seraphim Fabrics, and this is becoming one of my favorite neutrals. You know what? The color is not too bad on my screen. It is like a blue-gray, a gray-blue, kind of like what you would picture the Boston sky to look like in February or November is what this fabric looks like. I stitched this with color and cotton of my own conversion, and they're back in stash now, but on my one video I did this fall, I did go through them. And I finished this on the 6th of December, 2021. So, and once again, you can see how well I measured. Once it's in a frame, nobody will know. And I even took the iron out before I filmed today. But some of these were so wrinkled, definitely needed to be done. Okay, my next finish was AH to EH by Kathy Barrack. I changed this chart. I didn't bring the chart with me, so I'll insert a picture of the chart here. Well, I tell you what, the cover of the chart, well, I tell you what I stitched it on. I stitched it on 40 count old stationery by Seraphim Fabrics, and I used hand-dyed fibers, Vicky Clayton Silk, in the color Legacy. Started this on May 30th of 2020, and I finished it on, this one was actually finished in November. November 12th, I think. November 18th, December. I just can't read my own writing. December 18th of 2021. So here we go. And I love this, how it came out, so pretty. So what I did to modify it is the initials were eerily close to our family's initials. So even though this is a reproduction, I did change it to fit my family, our family. So everybody's initials are in there, and I made it to myself, from myself to my husband instead. Old Stationery is another one of my favorite Seraphim fabrics. It's just a really gorgeous neutral. All right, moving right along. One more finish for 2021. And this is an oldie but goodie. It is Quaker Garden by Blackbird Designs. And I don't have the chart with me because you don't need it because I finished it. And I put it in a clipboard because, as you can see, some of it you can see through because the clipboard's not long enough. This is stitched on Weeks fabric, 30 count, and it's stitched with the called for Weeks fibers. And I typically put my own initials in, but as many of you know, Barb Adams of Blackbird passed away this year, and this was one of her designs, so I wanted to put her initials in. I'm gonna hold it back because when I hold it up, the colors blow out. This is truer to color. This is an out of print chart. I have heard rumors that it will be reprinted at some point, so don't pay an obscene amount for it. I'm gonna hold up close so you can see the details, but this is not the colors. It's fine. Greens is so hard to photograph, and that's what it really looks like. This is a really odd size, but I found a frame that should fit it exactly. So need to get hubby on cutting me some foam core so I can frame it and show it and get it up on the wall. All right, 2 more starts. Next start is from a Blackbird book, out of print Blackbird book, Joyous Noel. Really, really nice book. Again, if you can get it without mortgaging your house or paying you know, selling your firstborn at a reasonable price, good one to have. And what I started is a sampler on the cover. I, once again, used the call for flosses, just pulled them out. Had some, bought some. They're just so pretty. Like, I love this sampler because it's not your typical Christmas colors, right? I did need to make a substitution. So it calls for a classic Colorworks Petite Moisson, but it really didn't show on my fabric. So I substituted a Color and Cotton Buttermints. It's a little bit darker. And you're like, Amy, show us the stitching. Not a huge start. There we go. This is 40 count Attic Lace by Lakeside Linens. I decided that an out of print Blackbird, it is Lakeside worthy. So there we go. That's all I did. Started in December. Time was precious commodity, and in New England there's not a lot of light in December. So I was having a hard time seeing the fabric, but that's the color palette. Really pretty. Looking forward to getting back to that. Blackbird is one of those designers that it's one of my favorites. I love, and I always need to have 1 or 2 Blackbird whips in progress because they just call to me and they make me happy. And that was supposed to be my last iron of the year. It wasn't. I don't remember when I started this next one, but, excuse me. It was right around Christmas. So I just said December 24th. And this is an old Prairie Schooler. This is the cardstock, but this has been reprinted. It is Christmas Samplers 2. I love every single one of these. And I couldn't decide what to stitch first. So I decided to stitch this. At first I was like, I'm just gonna stitch at the top, make it a pillow. But I really like the Happy Christmas. I'm like, maybe I'll leave off the reindeer. I don't know. I started at the top, went to the bottom. Funny story how this started out, why I started this. My youngest one needed to go for an MRI. We're sitting in the waiting room. My husband's like, you didn't bring any stitching. I'm like, I don't have anything that doesn't require a magnifier because it's on like 40, 46 count or isn't a half yard of fabric. Like I have nothing small left to stitch. So that's when I decided I need to stitch something small. So I pulled out some good old Fiddler's Ada and started it because we like to watch movies and TV during Christmas vacation time. My husband's home that week and nice 18 count Ada. I can sit and stitch in hand and watch TV and enjoy it and bring it to a waiting room or stitch it in the car and actually enjoy the stitching rather than frogging it when I get home because I can't see it. So that's my start. So only thing is you can't, I don't know if you can see it in the camera. No, you can't. So this calls for, I want to say Blanc, and you can't, I stitched a moon, you can't even see it. So I'm going to rip it out and do it in 3865. And something else I started doing, I have a master DMC set and I steal bobbins all the time from it, which means it's no longer a master DMC set because then when I go look for a color, it's not there. And that happened to me a lot this year. And like I said, I didn't have a lot of extra time. Like when I had extra time, I wanted to stitch. I didn't want to be looking for 934 or 3022 or whatever. I just wanted to pick up stuff and go. So one of the things I did over our Christmas vacation is I kitted up a few small things. And what I did was I got some Christmas cards that we got, cut holes in them, punched holes. I wrote the colors of floss in the back. In the project, and I made myself a floss card. So now, and I made myself a working copy of the chart. Now I have a travel project, and I kitted up a few other small magazine projects that way. Maybe I'll show them on another video. I was thinking about maybe doing a kit parade. We'll see. Don't hold me to it. But long story short, that was my year of stitching. So I had 11 starts, 10 finishes. I told you I ended up whipping down. So how does that happen? Because you started one more thing than you finished, Amy. I actually abandoned 4 projects this year. 3.5, now that I'm not sure, I'm going to abandon New Constellation. And if I abandon New Constellation, I will restart that, and I will restart it soon. Just not sure on the fabric. I'll stitch on it one more time to make that decision. But I abandoned 3 projects, and I am going to put pictures in of them right now as I'm talking about them. One of them is Botany Bay by Fox and Rabbit Designs. I was not enjoying stitching on it. And every time I stitched on it, I was thinking what else I could do with the fabric. So for me, that was a sign that it was not a whip I was going to love, and it was time to abandon it. Next one that I abandoned was Scarlet Ribbons by Long Dog Designs. This is what I call a legacy whip. For me, a whip is a legacy status if it's 10 years or older, meaning I would like to get it done, but it's not, you know, a high priority list. Regardless, I love this design. I was not happy with my floss and fabric combination. I was doing it with a deep, deep red, and it looked brown on the fabric, and I just never wanted to stitch on it. So that became a UFO. New Constellation, jury's out. Open for suggestions. Feel free to let me know what you think, but I could be a UFO, new start. Might not be. We'll see. And the last one is Happy Hearts by Birds of a Feather. This is an out of print chart that I have been dying to stitch, and a good stitching friend lent it to me, and I hate the fabric. A lot of times with me, not liking a whip comes down to the fabric. I tried and tried and tried to stitch on it this year, and I just hated it because I hated the fabric. So I have decided to restart that whip. I am actually going to return the chart to her when I go to the post office, which will hopefully be soon. I haven't been to the post office since August, people. Because I did find a copy of the chart for myself at a reasonable price. So I'd like to give her a chart back. But those are my UFOs. Botany Bay by Fox and Rabbit, Scarlet Ribbons by Long Dog Designs, Happy Hearts by Birds of a Feather, which will be a restart, and Jury is Out, New Constellation by Plum Street Samplers. Where is my whip count? So I started the year with 11 legacy whips that are older than 10 years. I am down to 10. What I would consider my active whip category, I started the year with 26 active whips, started 11, finished 10, which brings me down to 24 or 25 if I keep New Constellation. So either way, I am down at least one whip, actually at least 2 whips, possibly 3 whips going into 2022. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed seeing my whips. I did have a couple of new starts for January. I will show them in an update video. I wanted to keep this as purely closing the door on 2021. So that door is shut. I look forward to framing everything here. Thank you so much for your time in watching. I know that there are a million, probably no lie, a million floss tube with parades and videos out right now. And thank you for taking the time to watch what I did in 2021. Once again, Happy New Year 2022. I wish you all well. I wish you happy stitching, and I hope to see you in a few days with an update video of everything else I've been working on but did not finish. Thanks, guys.